Think you're all set then, Jane?
I do.
Okey dokey. Well, the clock says it's time to bring this meeting to order, so welcome everybody. I know we have some new faces in the audience tonight, which is wonderful. If anybody would like to introduce yourself and maybe who you're researching or whatever, you're welcome to do so. And if you don't wish to do that, you can just chat to whoever during the break or after the meeting. That's okay too. Don't see anybody jumping up, so we shall continue. There's only a couple of things for announcements. There's a public meeting for skits, which I'm sure some of you are aware of. Viewing of the time capsule opening is on April 28th at 11 o'clock, so some might be interested in that. And calling all Scotsmen. The Fergus Games are on 11 and 12 of August this year. And we want to remind everybody that the OGS conference at Guelph, it's nice and close this year, so it'd be a great time to go if you have any interest at all. And that's about all I have to say for now, so I'm not sure who is speaking first. Is that you, Jane? Okay then. Jane Teskey's going to have a little chat, and I'm thinking it's probably something to do with renewing websites and learning how to use record sites.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And maybe what do you find in family wills, or is that later?
That's not tonight.
That's not tonight. Okay, I'll scratch that one off. Should keep it for another time. You go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Hopefully I don't yawn through my own presentation, but I flew in last night. We went away for a fast weekend. So out of curiosity, I would like to know how many are not OGS members, if you just raise your hand. Because I want to show you what you can get on the OGS website, even if you're not a member. And then I'm going to show you what you can get as a member, okay? And not because I want you to be a member, but there might be something there to help you. And come June again, it's half price, so it might be something you want to think about. But as a non-member, there's actually a lot of stuff out there to help you with your research. And then the other thing I'm going to show you is our new Lampton website, which is not members. It is open to the public, and all the indexes on there that are free. So again, there's a lot of free stuff out there, and you should try and use it, because you might just get a bunch of hints and say, hey, I didn't have to pay for that, here's my answer, you know. So I want to show you Lampton first, because it's the easier one to use. And we all had to build these new websites. And when we did that, this isn't going to like me, but anyway, when we did that, we had to use a new Internet Explorer, or Internet website, where I had a more advanced web design site. We had to go to WordPress, less advanced, but it's a lot harder to work. So if you ever do find something on our site that doesn't work, quick email me, or just email the branch and say, Jane, this page didn't work, because I will fix it. It may take me a couple of days, but I can fix it after months and months of rebuilding our site. So anyway, and my Lampton branch, actually I won't use that one, would look different because I'm signed in all the time. So I'm going to use Google Chrome because I'm not signed into it. And if I was signed in as a member, it would show you a lot of different things, like how to change the website. Gotcha. So that's a little confusing. Let me stretch this out so you can see it. So it welcomes you. I have a picture of the Blue Water Bridge that I took off Bob Bailey's site and sent him a nice email and said thank you. And then the old map, and if you click on that, you can blow it up, and it is an older map, so it'll let you know where things were. Talks about oil. What's Lampton known for? Oil, blue water. But all these here are links. So this side explains what the link is, and this side here shows you a link. So our publications, Doug used to sell our publications, has retired at 84 or 85, and we sent them all up to the OGS website. You can get them actually quicker than even that you got the digital ones from us. But everything is on the website that we had, and you can get it paper or you can get it digital. And the money does come back to the branch, so, you know, it's all a good thing. The next one here is the conference about Lampton, and if I click on that, it's gonna take you to a new page. It's not gonna lose your old one, as you can see, it's still here, but it'll tell you a little bit about the branch, about our publications, who's in charge, which we haven't updated, and who's not, and who to contact, okay? So it's basically just a little bit of information on us. The meetings one, if you click on it, it's gonna tell you where the meetings are, and the next few are up there. April's up there, May's up there, June we haven't got yet, but again, it keeps you up to date. I almost would suggest that you bookmark the Lampton branch, because if you want to know what's going on, it'll be on there. So that's your meetings, that's your, and then there's the link to take you to the Ontario one, so you don't have to keep looking for it. Members only, it's a link, and if you're a member, you have a hard time signing in. So if you want to use that link, it takes you right to where you sign in. The name index, this is one we're really proud of. We have all the names in there you could think of. So I am just going to put in Lucas, because, and I got too many. See how you can put in right in the last word there? You can put it there, you could put James, and then you can tell it to search. And why did that come up? You can tell I've been away for a couple days. But see how that's working? It's actually searching. Maybe if we take out, okay, so there's Lucas's, and now it's searching for James, and there's 28 pages and more down here, it tells you. It's pretty light. That's one of the things the WordPress won't let me always darken every word. So I've tried much as I can, but there's some things like indexes, I can't make them any darker. If anybody knows how to do that in WordPress, call me, please. So anyway, there's a lot of Lucases in there, and those are the Arcona Cemetery ones. Now I want to see more than 10, and I don't want to keep scrolling through pages, because that's a pain in the neck. So now it's just James's, because it's searched, and there is only that many. So this one, James Douglas, is in our Lampton obits. That means, and I don't know how many know about Granny's Garden, that used to be online. We have all her collection of obituaries that were cut out in Lampton and mailed to her in BC. And when all her boxes by her son delivered to the BC archives, they phoned and said, "What'd you like to do with them?" And I said, "I want family histories, obits, birth certificates, marriages, anything that she had on family members, we want that." So we got 4.5 boxes, because one of our members was going out there for a visit to BC. He brought them home for us. And so we've been scanning. We have 2 more to go. And so in here is the obit. If you want that obit, you can now go down to the bottom here. And I'm sorry, it costs $2. That just helps us keep our scanning equipment working. And our computer's up to date. Like we just bought Adobe Acrobat. So every little $2 helps, that kind of thing. So you could just fill that out, customer's name, that's you, your email, because I have to know where to send it. And then the surname you're looking for, the page, and if you go back up here, his number was L1001. That's what you'll put in. I know it's an obit. And I'm going to email you that within a day, probably 4 or 5 hours actually. So that's a free index. And just to show you how swift it works, if we were to put in Smith, and I know Peter's here, again, I got 100 records, but and it went Smith James. There's 25 of 25, so it does tell you how many. And it filtered through 96,000 names. So what's in there is the obit index, the cemetery, all the cemeteries indexes to make it easier to find them. The funeral home indexes are all in there that we indexed from Petrolia. The home children, all it is an index that has the home child's name, last name and first name, and it'll say home child, so that means there's a page. And United Church records up to 1948. And then if anybody died after that, they're in there too, because it's a death. We have marriages all the way up to 2015, but only a funeral home can order them, so we have to go by Ontario laws. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in the Lampton. Early settlers, you don't have to be a member to send them in. If you had a settler living in Lambton County before 1900, your family's an early settler. So you may want to check and see if there's a name in there. Same thing, it's an index. Somebody shout out a name that don't know if they're in there.
Jennings.
Jennings? Tell me if I spell it right.
Jennings.
Okay, and Jennings, you can see how fast it popped up. It searches pretty good. So again, there's only 10, but there's 26. So if I go 100, we'll only get the 26, but, okay? So you can check, and if what's his first name?
William Edward.
So they're alphabetical, so I have 2 Williams
Oh,
and a
I-
William Mark, but no Edward.
William Mark Woolley, yeah, that's his father.
So your family's in our early settlers. Somebody, probably Diane sent it in. But anyway, the records are there. And we like to keep them up to date. Noreen, you send them to Noreen and she puts them in a binder and we keep them at the archive so people can research them. And we also index them here. And they're in our members only. So for our members from BC or Australia, Sydney, we now have one in Shanghai. They can see what we see at the archives. So that's what's in your members only. Lambton Early Settlers form is right there. Beer Index is the biological book of Lambton County. And if you don't know, he didn't just do Ontario, he went down into the States. And so if we click on that, I think it'll tell, not here. There is a spot that tells you about the history. If you're looking for Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and there's 2 other ones in the States. He wrote books in their area too, just like he did here for Lambton County, Kent, Essex, Wellington, Perth, and I'm missing one. But there's another one in Canada. Middlesex?
York.
York.
Jane, wasn't it just people that sent the information to him? So
They
it's
went to
incomplete?
door, and it's whoever told them the history.
Okay, so a lot could be missing still.
Yeah, yeah. And then, I don't know if they paid to go in it, or they bought the book at that time.
You had to pay to get in it.
Aha, Pat knows, yep.
Yeah. And it was, that's why it's not everybody, and that people thought it was very expensive.
And when you paid for it, was that, then you were guaranteed a book?
That, no, you were guaranteed that your name was in there, and that's why the stories would be their stories.
Okay, yep.
And then it was like $25 to put your family history in.
And in the 1906, that would have been a lot of money, $25. But there's a lot of families in there.
Take it with a grain of salt.
So, everything that in my family has worked out exactly as it was told. So, most people told the truth, I think. But there's a lot that probably didn't, that I don't know, but I just know my family. It worked out right down to who they said they married, where they lived. Everything was exactly. Genealogical links, I used to have a really good one up, and I'm still working on it. So I've really only put Lampton and Ontario. But like I said, this is all free. Please go through it, search it through, and check it out, because you're going to find a lot there. Now, for our one that's a little difficult to run is the Ontario Genealogy Society. Why people find it terrible, I'll stand up and explain that, is it's so different than the last one. I think people are confused. And I'm 63, I can handle change, and I'm not hopefully offending anybody, but some people that are 80 don't handle change as much as somebody that's 75. Do you get my drift? Like my mother would never
I think it's
handle it.
age related.
No, it's not just age related. My husband would hate change, and he's younger than I am. But he goes to work and they change his front on the Imperial Oil site, and he's mad for a whole friggin' 3 or 4 days. So he's not somebody who likes change. But I can handle change, so I guess, but I do get lost on this site. So this is why, one of the reasons.
Change for the better.
Yeah, so if you're a non-member, you can go into resources, and this one might be hard to read. Oh, it's better up there than here. So you can see all the different things that are in there. If you're a member, you go to Members Corner. But if you go to collections and stuff, it'll tell you what collections are in there. And not all of them do you have to be a member to. Cemetery, and it's horrible when you're away for a couple days. So Pedigrees is coming online. I don't think this one is quite online yet, but when it does, it has the pedigrees from the history and pedigrees that used to be on the Canadian Headstones website. Okay, and there's about 45 people who have put their family trees up on the old site. They're being transferred over. So there's a bunch of things going in there. And it's like everybody else, we're all volunteers, so it's hard to get things done. But if I go to resources and go to other databases, now see at the top here it says log in or register. I'm not logged in. So if I click on Tony, I can use it. Tony is the Ontario Name Index, just like the Lampton Name Index, it's the same. But it is all across Ontario where people have put names in it. So it could be a book in Ottawa. It could be the cemeteries of Lanark. It could be books in Niagara Falls. And these names are found in this book, so it tells you where you can find them. Some you can buy right then and there and get the sheet for $1 or $2. Other ones you have, it just tells you where you can find that book. Okay? The Ontario Church Collection. This is a free one, and it's new. And if you're on our Facebook page, you would see that I was looking for pictures. And it has all the churches in it that people are putting up. So I don't think we did Elsie Craig, but we've put a few on there. And you can scroll through it, it'll tell you the history. So if my parents, my great-grandparents, the Duncans, got married at Elsie Craig, I can now see a picture of the original little church they got married in, or somebody got baptized in. So that's what that collection's going to be. And anybody can add to it. You don't have to be a member. And you just have to have, if you didn't take the picture and you took it out of a book, you probably shouldn't do that for copyright's sake, unless the book is 100 years old. Okay? But if you took the picture and you had donated it to that book, then you can use that picture. So then you can, like I've wrote a couple people and they've given me permission to pull the pictures out. So that's one way you can do it. Or you can be driving down the road someday and see some quaint little old antique church. Stop, take a picture with your cell phone, mail it to me and tell me where it is. And we can look up the history, and we have a member, Sandra, is loading them all up there for us. So that's the church one. It doesn't open up new pages, as you can see. Strays. This one, if I try to log into it, it's going to tell me I need to be a member. And it's only going to give you a description. The strays will give a birth date, a death date, and probably some family information. A stray is if John Hudson was born in England, he wasn't, but if he was, and he married in Canada, that event is a stray, because you're married other than where your origin is. Okay? So if your grandparents lived in Ontario and flew down to Cuba and got married in the 20s, that event's a stray. If they come back here and live here until they're 80, and then they fly back to Scotland and die, but they're born one's born in Ontario, that's a stray. So where the event is, the event is not in, I was born in Betroya Hospital, I got married in Betroya. If I don't die in Betroya and I die in Toronto, that event's a stray.
Even if you're not living there? Like what if
If
they
I
take a
happen to
person
move
to
to
a
Toronto,
special hospital?
if I retire in Toronto and
So
decide
your
to live,
residence
yeah,
is
my
there.
residence is in Toronto at that time, then that event is a stray.
But if you're sent to Toronto Hospital
No,
and die there?
Good question.
I would say send it in and let us figure it out. Yeah,
Why is it that they look at us?
because that happens. Cancer patients
Oh,
have
yeah.
gone, yeah. My dad died in Florida. Lived his whole life around Betroya. So his death was a stray event. So he's in there. But again, like I said, that is one of the ones that is members. The church is open, the Huguenot collection, and I'm terrible with that because I never use it.
Huguenot?
Yeah,
It's a family collection, like it was file folders primarily and books that were given to the society because they were shutting down. And for a long time, they were just papers, the large part was papers and file folders. Those have all been scanned now and are very accessible.
so they are accessible to a non-person signed in, because I just did it. Okay, so that's one, if you have family in that area, you may want to look through there. Women's Institute, I believe you have to be assigned in. Nope. See, as soon as an index pops up, you can search it. So that's the Tweed Spear collection. Canadian Genealogist is gonna take you out to a magazine. Births, Deaths in America, that one I believe is open. The Insurance Papers is an organization of the Oddfellows, and I believe it's closed. We can click on it, but I believe it's closed. And I'm wrong. They must have opened it up. I knew they opened a few, but I haven't gone through them because it wasn't something I needed. And then the surname index is being built, but that's Tony, so I don't know what difference that's gonna be. And the memorial project is open. You can actually add memorials to it if it's something from war or something going on like that, or firefighters, it explains itself. And then this is an open, it's open, it's the one most people search. It'll pop up when you even use Google, so. Now, to show you the difference, oops. I just gotta make sure I'm on the right thing and not on Chrome. Okay, so this one's the internet. And you can see right here, it says My Account. So, all you members, before you go past this page, you have to sign in. If you don't sign in, and I know exactly where you're going to go to members only, you're not gonna get there. So, they suggest to all members, go here and sign in immediately. And if you were my computer, you just signed it, 'cause I hate putting things back in. When I close the computer down, it's very safe, so. So now we want to go to resources, and we want to go to Members Corner. And again, this is where every email I have got, every question I've got for help is, how do we get to members only? And then you're gonna scroll down until you find branch members only. And when it comes up, it'll tell you right away what you're connected to. Now, when you paid, if you can remember what you joined, these are only the ones with members only accounts. I have another one on here. It does not have a members only. And Wellington, it's not there yet. They're still working on flipping it from a Dreamweaver account to a WordPress account, and it's gonna take a while. So,
Yeah, they don't have my county in there.
what is your county?
Starmont, Dundas, and Glengarry. It's not available.
I'm not available. I don't own that one. I don't pay for that one.
No, and it's not available to buy.
So they don't
either.
have a members only.
They folded, they don't exist.
Oh. One that I noticed missing here, and it was here just a week ago, is Oxford.
Oh, you got it.
So I don't know if they've taken their site down to do some repairs or not. Essex, just so you have an idea of what's there, does anybody have family in Essex that they're researching? Essex have every publication they have done online for members only. And it's wonderful because there's newspapers, there's school records, there's maps, there's all the funeral homes, there's family histories that they have put up, people have donated, there's voters lists. I found more out about the Teskies and the Imesons since they put that online than I had found in probably 5 years. And before, I could never find their books for sale because they never set up at a conference. So now everything is in there for their members. That one did open the second site. Kent are working on it, but they have all their cemeteries online now. Their censuses are online, church records, diaries, local history, newsletters. So again, if you have Kent and you've never been able to find them, you may want to go into Kent online. Now, Kent's members, but if you just go to Kent branch, they actually have the same thing as we do, a master list of surnames. So check that out first, and it may say it's in one of these cemetery books. Well, it's going to save you a lot of searching. Most of the ones that have members only are really good in my book. And Lampton. We were the first digital ones online. We're not the only ones now. So, Lambton County. First thing again is the name index. Same one that's on our open one, we have it on here, because a lot of people don't go to our open that are members, they just go here. The Lifeline, that's our newsletter, it comes out 4 times a year, it's all the way back to 2006. If you're a new member, you may want to go look up something from 2006, or you can go in there and just search for a surname in it. Maybe somebody else is researching the same name as you are. Lampton Resources for Searching. This is a publication that Heather Ash has made for us, redone, and it's up to date, and it'll give you sites and where to find things. My mouse is faster than I am. What's at the archives, what's not at the archives. It is really a publication for somebody who's searching in Lambton, and we give it to all our members free. We don't charge for it, though now I've got a couple of people writing in and saying, somebody told me about this, how do I get it? And I don't want to join the OGS. So we may have to set a price at our next executive meeting to sell it, because there's a few people who would like it. Whoops, I don't want to go quite that far out. The funeral homes are in there more precise. So on the members only, on the members name search, it only tells you that that person died and what funeral home buried them. If you go into the members only site, it will tell you their death date, maybe a little bit about their family, how many pages there is. There could be an obit, there could be all the family members named, and each funeral home we indexed was different. McKay and White was this big, and it was like a spreadsheet, okay? Jay's that was in Petrolia before Jay Needham is a little folded thing, and on the front it lists wife, children, where the children live, there's all kinds of information in there. And on the back, it may list the order of cars with siblings in what car. So you just don't know what you're gonna get. Bradley's, she used to cut out, bits out of the newspaper, and if she could get a picture, she put it in her collection. So the Bradley funeral even has more. And Stedman's, I just can't get enough hours in the day to get out there to get it. But they know we're coming, and we'll only get the first few years, which will be back in the 1800s, which will really help a lot of people. It's just, we need more volunteers to help scan and stuff, so. Family Histories is a list of what books were donated to us and who donated them. Family Interest, this is new. And it's who is searching for who. So if we were to put in, and I keep hoping all members will send this in, but they don't. So I am looking for the Cowan family, and I give you William and where he was born and his wife, and his sister was married to a fair. But it can come up both ways, and I just didn't do that with me, but a lot of people would send, and I have the wife, the husband's first line, the wife's the second line, who her parents are. I know if I went into, I'm trying to think who has sent one in here to me. Oops. No. Maybe we could just go down, show you a couple. So if they didn't know the parents, and that's kind of what they're looking for, you can see they say, not known. Greg Ferguson is a member from far, far away. He's looking for Atkins and Walter Roach, not known. He doesn't know where he was born, doesn't know a whole lot other than the wife's birth was in New Jersey. So we're hoping people can help each other. There was a lady on here, and it so happened I sent her a whole family history.
And I got
I
one
can't.
open on there.
Huh?
I got one open on there.
But you haven't sent yours in to me, so I can't forward to that person. So this is what happens. If you have somebody on here, and you were to click, say Combs, and you were to click Donna Scott, it's going to take you to, in this computer I don't have email actually, it is going to take you to an email to open up. And it emails the Lampton OGS, subject line, Donna Scott relative. And then I'm gonna forward your email to her. So once you give me this, you're giving me permission to forward the email on to the person searching. So I'll send it to her, and then she will contact you. So there's no third or fourth person looking, like I don't need to be in every conversation. Because I answer these emails. But yeah, there's lots of people here, and
Is there a place on there to fill that out?
to fill it out online,
Yeah.
yep, it's called the Members Research.
Oh, that, okay.
Yeah, that form.
That's where it goes in.
Yeah, and I've been trying to think of how to put it into the regular website, so it's not members, but who I'm researching in Lampton, Lampton Researcher. So that way we can help non-members without, costing them money all the time. I just don't want your personal emails out there online, so that's what I'm trying not to do. Again, early settlers are in there. Now, when I click into this one though, you actually see the whole book. So early settlers, say we found somebody in volume 4, we're gonna click in here and switch it to Adobe. So if you have Adobe Reader, it'll let you do that. And let's say we found them on page, I don't know, 251. Don't have that page, so. You'll notice that the numbers are high in each page. It's because volume 1 is page 1, and then when she started volume 2, and if she ended at 850, the next page was 851. So it just keeps on going. So this is a page that was sent in, and that's who they're looking for, or who they had in their family. where they were born in England, and then William was born in Moore, so they came from England to Moore. And you can see 1862, it's quite a history there. And then as you go through, page 3 is where the settler, a little bit of story about him. And it's whatever the person that sends it in puts it in. And this is Ruth Mackesy, one of our researchers. So she's put her information right into that. That was her second great-granddaughter. She's the second great-granddaughter to Foster. Okay? So then if you wanted to contact her, I know she's in that members research, or you just email Lampton at OGS and say, I need to contact Ruth Mackesy. And so I will send it to her, she will contact you. And there's quite a bit, you know, there's, I think, almost 800 pages in each book, so. Let's go back to here. So maps, Petroleum newspaper, this is what we're indexing, births, deaths, and marriages. And if you ever looked at it before, I'm trying to watch the clock at the same time, are we on regular time or?
10 after 8.
Okay.
5 after 8.
The clocks here haven't been changed.
No. 5 after 8.
I
So
found
it's really
that out.
5 after 9?
No.
Okay,
My watch.
don't confuse me, guys. It used to be a headache to search, because you had to go every 10 years or every 5 years. So now, 1925 to 1950 has been redone. And say we went in here and put births, I'm gonna put Dobbs, I'm not sure there is one, but we'll see what comes up. Anything with a D-O-B. So even if you didn't know the whole spelling of his name, that come up Dobbin. And you can search, it tells you what page, and as you slide this over, you'll see it's a topic. That's the day that the newspaper come out, not the day of the death, and it's on page 7 if you want to go get that obit. So we did it on deaths, births, and marriages. And I don't have the marriages split by men and women anymore, it's just all one. It'll search either or. You can put it in anywhere along here to search. So any questions on Lampton? Anybody get lost in anything on it that I haven't covered? Okay, then one other site that we actually own now, maybe I wasn't in the right spot. Canadian Headstones. Only because on the way in, somebody brought that up and I thought, yep, I forgot that site. So to find Canadian Headstones now, it's back in the Ontario Genealogy site.
Geno Fund.
Hmm?
Geno Fund.
Geno Fund? No,
When you get up there, okay, go ahead.
shouldn't be. Resources, Canadian Headstones. Where do you see Geno Fund?
Okay, all right, I got another one.
Okay, so Canadian Headstones, it says start here, surname. And only because it's my maiden name and I know what's up there. If I don't find it, then I can get angry, right? So I'm gonna look for Cowan and I'm gonna do a quick search. This is not a good site yet. It needs to be broke down so it's just Ontario or it's just Lambton or. So it brings up every town across Ontario, right? So now if I put in Dad's, and I just spelled that wrong. And I still think about 10 is gonna come up. So Ross Bay in Vancouver Island, Canadian headstones have headstones all across Canada. So I'm looking for one that is in Lambton County. And to do that, I can apply a filter.
Okay. You got it there.
Yeah, but it didn't bring it up.
Yeah, Alexander James. Bottom of the page, oh,
That is
In
his
dark.
name, but it's not there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my dad's stone. No, that's my grandpa's stone.
Yeah, I was gonna
There's
say,
one- there was
like,
another one
that's
above
the
it.
way.
Because dad's is right behind.
There was another one right above that one.
I didn't see it.
So then can you print that?
You can print it off.
Okay, yeah.
What I do is, if I snag it, I put where I found it and who took the photo.
Yeah.
In this case, I wouldn't care because I took the photo. Right? And if I put any up there, I really don't care.
That's the one you want.
Yeah. So, it's working pretty good. A lot of people used to use, sorry, I know the name just went out of my head, Jen Webb's,
Canada Gen Web, yeah.
and that didn't go where we.
Ontario Cemetery Finding Index.
Well, Canada Gen Webb's is down. But it normally comes up to the top.
You got D instead of B.
Yeah, probably, is that the one that comes out, Gina Web?
Yeah.
Cemetery project, yeah, okay. It's still there, but they belong to Roots Web. Roots Web is a branch off Ancestry that crashed 3 months ago. Okay, so if you're used to using Canada Gen Web's site, it crashed. They're working on putting it up somewhere else, if that all works. And if you ever use Northern Canadian Headstones, which was all the ones up in Renfrew County, all those little Polish cemeteries way up high, they were given to these guys. When he retired, Murray, he gave them to Canadian Gen Webs. He didn't know they were gonna crash in 2 months. And it wasn't them that crashed, it was Roots Web that crashed. And I don't think,
What's at the top of that one? Oh, yeah, they've still got the message up.
yeah,
So did they lose the information?
no. No, they haven't lost anything. It's all backed up on a server somewhere. Maybe we'll see them change servers.
The pictures became unavailable.
You can still find the names. That came back probably 3 weeks ago, but you couldn't find anything before that. Even the names were gone. But it is all on, they own a server, so it's sitting on that server, and if Webb's comes back, it'll go up there, or they're going to look at moving it. That's the word I got, so, you just have to kind of keep, and they're talking about the Canadian Gravemaker Gallery. That is the one that I talked about for Northern. It got set down, so. Is there any other sites you actually have problems with? Anybody have a problem with a site? Because if you've been on Ancestry lately, or MyHeritage, Gen Web's was on there. They were showing you the cemetery. You'll still get the information, but you won't get the stone, because that's how they were interlocked. No one's having any problems with any other sites. Did that answer your question? On how to get on Canadian Headstones?
Oh, yeah.
No, John.
Yeah, well, I've been on it,
Okay,
but
It's difficult.
unsuccessfully, that's all.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and if you send IT at OGS, why you think it's difficult, they'll work on fixing it. And I think they're getting sick of hearing from me, because I've sent it about 35. That's the first thing I do when something don't work, is I IT the person that's doing it. And that's why I want people to IT me if the Lampton websites don't work, because I can't fix them if I don't see what you see. And what I see on my home computer is, I'm logged right in as the repair person, so I don't see the hiccups the same way. Okay, Alan also has a website that not many of us have used, and I'm gonna tell him to come up. If nobody has any questions, if you do afterwards, we'll both answer it. There's our website if you need the address. So it's just Lampton at ogs.on.ca. And OGS, if you just put in ogs.on.ca, it'll take you to the Ontario one. And Alan, I have you in here. Let's see. I was just thinking you did it on 16 and I probably did it on, this is 13.
13.
Okay, well, it should work.
16 doesn't like me, because I haven't paid any money.
We have licenses.
Could be, but
Okay.
I'm still working on 13.
I'm gonna go over to the side.
I'll put a plug in, when you're on the OGS website and the links across the top where the one said education, if you click on that, you'll find the OGS blog. I post twice a month on the second and fourth Fridays, and all my blogs are about generally, well, sometimes I get on the pulpit and tell people to write their family histories, but generally it's writing about research and my experiences with websites and records, and it's a free service, just in case, and if it helps you out, great. And it's also good.
I touched it just a little bit because it was
Get it back,
static.
so I've got the full screen. Can I do that?
Yeah.
And what you might have to let the computer go do it, or?
I don't know how far your cord will go back. There's the door. Sorry about that, I was trying to turn it up because it was all static, nobody said.
Oh, I'll do that when I'm focusing. No, I can't make this any, no,
No.
no.
There we go.
All right.
Okay, so there's that one.
Slideshow.
Yeah, but I'd like to get full screen of it if I can. There we go.
We're actually a little too high.
Okay.
I don't know if we can get this down or not.
Okay, I was trying to get it big because
I'm gonna put this
I
much.
took snagged images right from the website, and I needed large rather than small. I couldn't zero in, or it would lose what I wanted to kind of show
It's a
you.
little better. Let's do your most bad.
Okay. Okay, on land, Ontario Land Registry access. I don't know how many are familiar with it, but this is the greatest thing since the invention of sliced bread.
I do that.
Because normally, if you wanted to access what's available here, you'd have to go to the Archives of Ontario and go through hundreds of microfilm. Because the way that land records were developed in Ontario was the fact that they're stored by county. So if you were researching, if you wanted to research, for example, I've been doing a lot of research in Perth County, Stratford area. And if I wanted to research those, I would have to drive to Service Ontario site there, or maybe the Stratford Archives if I was lucky, or go to the Ontario Archives in order to access some of these materials. With this going online, courtesy of Service Ontario, and I'm pleased because early days, I used to call them Serviceless Ontario, after having stood in line to get driver's licenses and things like that. But this is a neat touch. But it's being driven by the dollar, because I think there's going to be part of it accessible at no cost for you. The abstract indexes will probably be free of charge, but then if you want copies of actual records like the instruments, then it's going to start to cost. The other thing you might want to consider if you own a home is you may want to put insurance against mortgage fraud on your home, because all of the information about you owning the home, when you bought it, how much you paid for it, is now online for anyone to see. Privacy is a wonderful thing if it exists. Okay.
The down
What
arrow.
happened with the Privacy Act?
Okay. I'm going to talk as though you may not have seen these things before. My apologies back there to somebody in the back row who's seen more abstract indices than she cares to in a lifetime. Basically, the abstract indices were large books and where they recorded the history of a piece of property from the beginning of the Crown Grant. People got the Crown Grant officially once they completed their settlement duties and paid whatever they had to pay. Then they got the Crown Grant. Then they started to record it in the abstract indexes. If you want information about that land prior to that time, then you're looking elsewhere. And most of that material is held by the Archives of Ontario, although you can get, through interlibrary loan, you can get microfilm in, which the general topic for it is township records. And they can be ordered in, and you go to the Lambton County Archives and they can help you find the ones you want. In fact, you've got some of them on file. I think you've got the microfilm there for a large chunk of them. And those are records that predate the Crown land, getting the Crown Grant. For example, I was talking about I was researching an ancestor, my two ex-great-grandfather, who was there, and he laid down money on 5 north parts of lots and never ended up owning any of them. So you will not find his name in the abstract index at all because he never received a Crown Grant. But when I went into the township records, I found neat things about where he had applied for the land, where he had a letter of reference from a neighbor who talked about what he had built on the land and why he wanted that particular land. And in fact, he was the son of a builder, and the north parts ran along the river, and he wanted to build a grist mill. I don't think it ever happened. He ended up down the states, dying down in Illinois, so that's a whole other story. Anyway, so the abstract indexes basically started out with lot and concession numbers, since that's the way that the province was surveyed. And then you ended up with plan numbers when you started to subdivide things. For example, I live in Smith subdivision, which faces on to the 402, cozied right up to Murphy Road. And I've actually got the plan. The former owners, they left the subdivision plan tucked between one of the basement studs and the drywall on the open side of the. So I've got that shows the 2 streets for Jordan and Guthrie, in which I live, gives me my lot number, and it tells me the plan number, because that's one of the things you have to know before you start to find your house in a subdivision, is you need to know the plan number. I'm not even going to touch on that today because I am still in the process of that. I've got the plan number. I found the records for mine from about 55 on when it was developed, after it was developed. But now I have to go back and start with the Crown Grant and work my way through and win my way through until I find out the point at which it became the subdivision, and that's another whole story. So I've taken the easy way. I'm working on lot and concession numbers. Okay. So those are big books that they've scanned. And when they filled up one, they started another one. So you could, and when you're going from Crown Grant to the present, you could trek through 3 books if you're looking at the original big books, which they have out at the Lambton County Archive. And I'm very familiar with them from years of research because that's the way you had to do it. Then you have the index, and the index is to instruments, and that's the legal term for it. And you've got deeds, as I've noticed, bills of sale, mortgages, wills, and not all wills by any stretch of the imagination, but sometimes when people maybe own just the farm and had no big cash and money or never owned land outside of Lambton County, then they might have attached a will right in the land records. It would have been taken to the land registry office and said, I'd like to register this and have you keep it, or at least to keep a copy of it. Quit claims, where you've got a family and 3 members of the family say, I don't want the land, my brother can have it. Transfers, I'm not sure that's the correct term, I use that term, that's like, for example, where one of my great-grandfathers, one of my great-grandfathers gave the land to his son for $1. But he had a great long document that explained exactly what he got in return for the $1. He stayed in the house, and he identified the specific rooms, etc., which horses were his to use, which carriage he would use, which part of the apple orchard was theirs to use, which parlor they were going to use. It was all laid out, so it's neat stuff. There's a lot of interesting things. Okay, and that's what it looks like. And I've got 2 key areas, and you're probably not even going to be able to read it. But this is a unique website because it belongs to Service Ontario. And Service Ontario has specific hours that it's open. The website is usable specific hours. And they aren't too bad. 4 a.m. to 12 a.m., which is Monday through Thursday and Friday, and it gives all that information. So what it means is that, if I understand that correctly, you cannot use it on the weekend. You have to access the website during those hours in order to be able to use it. The spot that you're interested in is the one that's highlighted because it's basically the only thing that's live right at this present time, which is the historical books, and as far as Lampton's concerned, that's the abstract indexes. Some of the counties of Ontario have more than that available to them, and some counties don't have much available to them at this moment. In fact, I was in Chatham and they said something about it blew up or something like that, and they couldn't access what they wanted to access.
Sorry, what's the website?
This is on land, Ontario Land Registry Access, and it's,
It's on land.ca.
yeah, it's HTTPS, etc., www.onland.ca. All you have to do is type in Ontario Land Property Records.
Even onland.ca.
Yeah, even on land with quotation marks around probably would pick it up. I'm a lazy searcher when it comes to Google.
You go to Service Ontario and click on it.
Okay. There's always more than one way. Okay, so I click on historical books there, and let's see, and it says select a land registry office, and where would you like to search? So I picked Lampton, and you can see Lampton up there. Maybe you can't see
Yep.
Lampton, but across from
In
historical
the
books,
green.
in the green, it says Lampton, so I'm in Lampton. So what I had done was I dropped in concession 7, lot 16, and it says no results found, but it tells you alternatively you can try to browse for books. Now, I did stick my plan number in, and it actually popped up. So, but you can go in and browse, and when you go under browse, once you've selected Lampton, then it lists all the different sections, and they're not all together. Like you'll find, I was looking for Besanquet, and you'll find various ones. Elviston might be in more than one part, and it's not necessarily in alphabetical order, so you may have to search through it. That's what they call browsing. There we go. Okay. So what I did was I went in and I found book 3 for Besanquet, because it was farther down the list. I couldn't scan the whole page. I had to take a chunk out of it. And that's a page from the Abstract Index. That's what it looks like. And you see all those lines through? That's usually mortgages that have been paid off. Okay, and I think I blew that up, but it's still, I found that it's a government thing and they probably eventually want money from you. I did these all with Snagit, and I found that they're blurred a little bit. So I brought along a cheat sheet with me and I set it down somewhere.
But I got another one, I think I did I do a better one?
Yeah,
Yes,
you can read that.
yes, that, I had a photocopy of it from years back. So, arrow on the far side, number of instrument, that's the key thing. Once you know the number of the instrument, you've done all the work. Now you drive out to Lambton County Archives and you walk in and you say to the person working the front desk, I'd like instrument number 6404
From where?
from Zanquit. Okay? And you, lot and concession in this case, lot number 16 and 7th concession. And you know that, you've got that right on the page. So that you could get a copy of that. So the first one is a mortgage. And this is my John Pratt Campbell and Margaret Campbell. They're my great-grandparents. And they were in Lambton County, but they never owned the property. It was owned by the father-in-law, Frederick Fitzgerald, and he's a good Irishman. And Irishmen never give up property. I don't, you know, maybe if she'd married an Irishman, it might have worked. But she married a Scotch-Irish guy. And even then, I'm not so sure it worked, because there are rumors that he had a propensity to drink, and he might have drunk away the property. So anyway, so that makes it interesting, because the second thing is a summons. My gosh, they have legal documents in here besides land records. And then they've got the deed, and it's from the Canada Company, because the Canada Company sold some of the property in Bazanquet Township. And you can actually go and find records, minimal records for the Canada Company, but if they got the deed, there's more information. If they just leased land and never followed through, there's an entry in a book, period. And sorry about your luck, folks, if you bought through the Canada Company, the township records don't apply. There are no township records for Canada Company land that was sold. I was looking for something in Osborne Township, and I was going through the reel, and I think Pat was out there and was there, and I stopped in the middle and I started to curse, because it went beautifully right up to within a concession of where I wanted to be, and then it ended. Or in the second film, there was nothing more, because that's where the Canada Company grant started. And I was going to have to look in the Canada Company grant, so I didn't get the benefit. So you're getting a whole lot of the talk I'm doing at conference in a few minutes. Anyway, next, so William W. Fitzgerald was the half-sibling of Margaret Fitzgerald Campbell, my grandmother, great-grandmother, sorry. And then there's another deed, because Frederick and a whole bunch of them ended up agreeing to have the property sold to Frederick, the son of John Pratt, my great-grandfather, for $1. And then they turn around basically on the same day, and they sell it at real value to David Shepard for $3,800. That's called making darn sure that the old bugger never got his hands on the land to blow it on drink. Back to the summons. The summons was a summons to arrive in court and explain why they didn't sell the land in order to pay off their debts. And that's exactly what they did. The land was sold, their debts were paid off. JP was already out homesteading in Manitoba. The family left for Manitoba right afterwards. So there's a story in there, even though just the names are in there. And it's neat, though, because one of the neat things there, you know, I've got a picture of the cover of it. So there's that's an example of the instrument all folded up. It opens up, and some of the ones I've got are about this big. But this is the one from W.W. Fitzgerald to Frederick Campbell, so the deed is turned over for the $1 so that he can then proceed to sell it to pay off the bills. Like, there's always stories behind everything that happens. And that's a copy. I've got them at home. I've got original copies at home, because thanks to Bob McCordick, who his family had something to do with the property, and he walked into the meeting one day and says, Al, you'd probably like these, and he gave me the documents, the deeds, this identical to the ones that are held out at the Lambton County Archives, which apply to the time my family was involved with the land. And then this is where the land was sold to D. Shepherd. The other thing I've got is the mortgage. And the interesting thing about it, it was my great-grandmother who took out the mortgage, because great-granddad was already out in Manitoba. But there was a problem. A married woman had no rights and could not take out a mortgage. And on the back of the form, stamped and signed by a judge, the judge accepted her as a single female for the purpose of this document, so that she could take out a mortgage on the property, which is kind of neat, to hold on to something that was signed by your great-grandmother, the actual original document, which is neat. Anyway, that's it in a nutshell. If you've got any questions, I'll attempt to answer them. I've played with the site maybe about 5 hours total now, and I'm going to be back in to play with subdivisions and stuff like that. But it is a bonus because, like I said, once you find a location, if you're researching in Lampton, we've got the sweetest arrangement here because those instruments are sitting out at the archives in Wyoming. Now, when it comes to other counties, one of your big issues that you're going to have is to find out if the instruments are available, like if they're even accessible, because I think in some places they're buried in the basement. The other alternative is to go to a Service Ontario site and I guess purchase a copy. And I don't know.
On microfilm, but they're really hard to read.
Who's got them on?
At the archives in.
Yes, yes. Ontario Archives, or Archives of Ontario, has some of that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they've got the instruments though, do they?
Some of them, yes. But
Might have some.
Yeah, but they're very hard to read.
Yeah. And the land registry offices used to have microfilm, but I don't know whatever happened to that, whether they just digitized them and dumped them out, I don't know. My last experience with the Service Ontario office was a very negative one. If I hadn't run into a professional researcher, I would have been dead in the water and never found anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm not gonna say it would be a negative experience now, because they appear to be trying to do something productive, and it may work for you. But it means that you're dealing with to get as close, to get to these instruments, then you're talking about working at the county level. So if you're interested in York County, you're going to York County at this moment, unless they get to the point where they'll say, well, we'll sell you a copy of that for X amount of dollars. You tell us what instrument you want. I don't know whether that may be the plan eventually, I don't know. So it's either travel or wait and see. And they might be out of power, and who knows what happens after that. Well, that's bad. Apologies. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free. But do play it. Doesn't cost a dime right at the moment. Yes?
Ellen, I do have all that stuff, all the instruments for my great-grandparents' property in Brook Township. I made copies with Pat's help, and I can't understand it. It's like it's in legalese, but I find it very difficult to understand.
Have you typed them out?
I have not.
I would strongly suggest you type them out. It's amazing how much more they make sense when you take the trouble to type them out.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
I'll
found
give
that,
a go.
because I found the same things, that I would look at them and I'm saying, okay, what does this mean? But as soon as you take the document and you actually figure it out, you type it in and you say, okay, I'm not sure what that word is, you leave a question mark, and then you go back and look at it a second time and say, oh, now I think I know what that word is, and then you go back and you read it and you figure it out. You'll get a certain amount of legalese, but
Okay.
no, it's time consuming, because some of them are long, like, I've got one that's close to 10 pages long. But if you really want to know what they say, I find that works well. If you
Well, I
type them
have a
out.
friend that was a legal secretary for 30-some years, and then after that, she worked as a court clerk, and I gave them to her to see if she could, and she handed them back to me.
Well, depending on the quality of the cursive writing. Because some of them are bad, and some of them there's sections, but I guess the thing is that some of them are pretty straightforward, they're boilerplate. But other ones, like when I was talking about documents that transfer the land for the dollar, you wanna know what, it's so interesting to look at the entire thing. And sometimes typing it out is the way you say, okay, you looked at, because I was looking at probate records for the two ex-great-grandfathers talking about, and they were probate records from Indiana. And they were fascinating, like what they sold and how much it cost and what he had and all that kind of stuff. I found it interesting. And that the kids only bought one item, and that was an iron. All the rest went. Anyway,
I got a
yes.
question, because I haven't done it yet. Wills,
Yes,
1987, can anybody go in and get a will for someone, or do you have to be
Here
family?
you can,
Here you
you
can.
can get it here. But, they're never going to copy them, 'cause I've been waiting 20 years to get my grandmother's will,
mhm,
and it waited and waited. And so finally I said, I'm gonna call them. So I called them and I wanted to know, since 1960, they always said that they aren't transcribed yet on
mhm.
microfilm. So I thought, okay, I'll give them another couple of years, still nothing. So finally, was it about 4 months ago?
Yeah.
I called them and she said, you could hear the chuckle in her voice when I was talking to her. She said, they're never going to be microfilmed. If you want them, we'll copy them for you and get them. So I got 5 wills and it was $87.
Okay, where'd you go?
Toronto.
Toronto, okay.
Just called though, she didn't have to go down.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go down.
No.
You can call, you just have to know the number that it is. And you get it on like the microfilms out at the
Mhm.
Lampton in 1960.
63 was hers.
Yeah, my grandmother died 63, so.
How forward does it go, though?
I don't know, but you can go to the county building here and get it there. And if they have copied it here and sent it to Ottawa, you can get it. Because I know I did a lady, or Toronto, I did a lady in Grenada, and her husband, or her in-law was in 1987. And we had to get it, and there was 2 of the same people, so she got both of them. It's only because we knew the number by
Mhm.
calling the department here. And we got them, and then we could get the number, and they would copy them for her.
Thanks,
So you
Pat.
can call here and get the number?
Well, I did. At the manager.
You may wanna pull them in. That's
Don,
it.
can a person, on this will bit, can a person go in and get a copy of a non-family will?
Yeah,
I guess
yeah,
it-
it was a non-family that I ordered
Yeah,
for that lady, but
Okay.
because any of them that are microfilmed, they're
Yeah.
microfilmed, so they'd be available, but I'm not, what's that go, the microfilm goes to,
it only goes up to 59, 60.
yeah,
Yeah, these are all.
so in that time period.
Yeah, it was, yeah. If you, there's an index there up to 1965, I believe it is. And you can order it there. But then after that, then you have to go to the
County office.
building here,
Mhm.
yes.
And mine are all after that. Some of them are 2012. But it went through probate, so.
Well, if you're a family member, you might be able to get, I don't know that present day, as I would call it,
Okay.
because this is 2000, say. So it still might not be legal for them to give it out to the public.
Yeah, thank you, because I've only done the older ones, I've never done anything more recent. I've kept all my family ones, my parents, I've got copies of theirs, but, yeah, so you ask somebody that knows.
It might be public after it's been probated, but because it hasn't gone to court before it's been
Mhm.
probated. It's one of those
Yeah,
kind of
I would think there'd be no reason to keep it private,
Right, yeah.
unless you were rich and didn't want anybody to know about things. And that's not my problem. Okay, what am I doing here? Yes, sir.
So you were talking about like a specific lot, concession number, whatever it was, so you could track that all the way back with its instruments and
Mhm.
everything else, back to the grant.
To the Crown, yeah, Crown grant, yes.
What is before the Crown grant, or is just Canada owns
That would be, it could be, That's what I was talking about with, like, if it was a Canada company, you could buy land through the Canada company and maybe put money down on it. And then you build a house and clear land and all that. And the same with,
So the
with
Canada
the other.
company was what, the government of the time?
No, it was actually a company that was established, and they were given a huge tract of land to sell.
Okay.
Like it was the best land scam you ever saw in your life, you know, and not, I shouldn't say
No, no,
scam,
no.
but there were people made a whole lot of money out
So
of it.
somebody that came from wherever.
They were given
they were
that chunk to look
a
after.
grant And did paperwork for
Yeah.
the company.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
Whereas,
paid that
where the
company.
other ones were kind of called government grant, like they were kind of like a government grant. And the land was, and then you'll find records of them in the township papers,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay. But
It depends on how
it'll
much
say
action.
either Canada company or the other.
Yeah, actually, if you go to Wikipedia and look up the Huron Tract,
Okay.
then it will tell you what parts of, it affected Middlesex, it caught Zanquit, it caught a chunk of Huron County, I think it caught a chunk of Perth, and I'm trying to, and off the top of my head, I'm not sure what else, but it shows, Wikipedia will show you maps of which counties were affected by the Huron Tract.
Because part of the one that I'm researching, basically they came over from England, and they landed in York and Toronto, and were given a land grant in Muddy York, which was in Scarborough, but ran into a surveying party from coming back from like the Rice Lake, Peterborough area, and traded their grant and went up there instead. So, but that's why I was wondering, how did the grant, or who gave the grant? How did you get the grant when you're in England to come to Canada to do that?
Well, generally you would apply once you arrived.
Oh, okay, you didn't do it ahead of time.
No, not necessarily, yeah,
Came
generally once you were here, like my James Bolton was here in 1819, and he applied.
Right.
And his application, those grants are, you can search for them through the Library and Archives website, and they have them digitized.
Okay.
So, and that's a whole nother session, but you could go and explore that, because it ties, there's an index you can search in, and then it gives you information to tell you, it tells you what digital, like, it tells you where to go look, there's a file that you have to go look through and page through.
Not in, talk to his hands.
Okay.
The concession.
You're gonna have a few bits tonight.
Yeah.
The research.
Father and sons.
Mhm. So there's a number of spots you can look. So, but that, like I said, maybe come to conference and come to my session. Okay, thank you.
I shut the speaker off, so there'll be more and more loud voices. Everybody can hear Noreen, so.
Well, thank you both, Alan and Jane, that was very good. And I think everybody probably needs to stand and stretch their legs for about 5 minutes, and then we'll get on with the rest of the meeting. And I'm sure they'll all take questions if you have any.